The hum of the assembly line at Wellman Plastics was a rhythmic, soul-crushing lullaby that Darlene Connor had never expected to hear again. Standing shoulder to shoulder with her sister Becky, she adjusted her mask, feeling the recycled air turn warm against her face. It was the year 2020, and the world had narrowed down to the space between two safety yellow lines on a concrete floor. "This is so much better than waiting tables," Becky shouted over the roar of the machinery, her hands moving with practiced precision. "You do not have to concentrate. Your mind can wander anywhere. For 8 hours a day, I am a free woman." Darlene squinted as she snapped a plastic component into place, her eyes looking weary above the blue surgical mask. "I just got back from Hawaii," she replied dryly, her voice dripping with irony. Becky looked over, her eyebrows shooting up in surprise. "Really? In your head?" "No," Darlene deadpanned. "I just got back from hell. Oh wait, I am still here. My mistake." It is hard to tell the difference with the steam coming off these vats. Despite the grim surroundings, there was a strange, desperate sense of community on the line. A small, colorful envelope was being passed from worker to worker, moving against the flow of the plastic parts. It was a relic of a pre-pandemic world, a physical object touched by dozens of hands. "Oh, check it out," Becky said, taking the envelope. "It is so cool that people pass things to each other along the line. It is like a relay race of kindness." "Yeah," Darlene muttered. "Especially during a pandemic. It is like a lazy river of disease. We are basically playing hot potato with a virus." Becky opened the envelope, ignoring Darlene's cynicism. "Oh, it is a birthday card for Nicole. She is 68. She let out a genuine laugh as she read the inside. "Hahaha, that is so Nicole." Darlene stopped her hands for a microsecond, a plastic joint clicking under her thumb. "Who the hell is Nicole, and how do you know these people?" "We have been here like 3 days, Becky. You are acting like you grew up in this factory." "I am getting to know these people because I eat lunch with them," Becky countered, passing the card to the next person. "And I do not sit in my car alone blasting NPR like fresh air is gangster rap. I actually talk to human beings." "I am sorry if I need a little mental stimulation," Darlene snapped, her frustration boiling over. "I cannot shut my mind off like everybody else here can. I need words, ideas, something that is not molded plastic." "That is so you," Becky sighed, her hands never stopping. "You assume these people are stupid just because they work here, when you won't even bother to get to know them. You are the one missing out." Darlene glanced at the card as it moved further down the line. Nicole's card has a mountain lion dressed in a business suit, and it says, "You cannot fool us. You are still a cougar." I think I know all I need to know about Nicole right there. She is a feline-themed professional. A moment later, a small container was passed back. Becky handed it to Darlene. "Stuff your bitter hole with this. It is probably sugar-free because of Nicole's diabetes." "Ooh, diabetic cougar cake from a total stranger?" Darlene raised an eyebrow. "Hard pass. I prefer my midday existential crisis without the risk of a blood sugar spike." Back at the Connor house, the evening air was filled with the discordant, jarring sounds of a guitar being tuned. Louise sat on the sofa, leaning back with a glass of wine, patiently watching Harris struggle with the fretboard. The girl's fingers were red and trembling. "Okay, that is an E7, Louise instructed, her voice calm and encouraging. Harris winced, pulling her hand away as if the strings were made of hot wire. "It hurts to press the strings. My fingertips feel like they are going to fall off." "It will hurt until you build up your calluses," Louise said gently, taking a sip of her drink. "It is, unpleasant, but if you stick with it, it gets better. Like whiskey, or sex, or living with your grandfather." Harris looked up, a small, knowing smirk forming on her face. "So, why did you get the itch to play again? You have been staring at that guitar like it is an old boyfriend." "Yeah," Harris admitted, her bravado slipping for a second. "There is this guy I am dating online. Just want to work out some feelings. Music seems safer than talking right now." Louise nodded, her expression becoming more serious. "Yeah, relationships during COVID can be pretty tough. I mean, I like being here with your grandpa, but when I mentioned that I would go home at some point to check my mail, he got a little but hurt. He is sensitive under all that flannel. He wants to be with you," Harris said, looking back at the guitar. "I do not think my guy will ever commit to me. You know, until he gets a divorce. Which is basically a fairy tale." Louise did not miss a beat. Trust me, they never get divorced. And if they do, they are not as hot anymore because they are broke and living in a studio apartment with a hot plate. You are wasting your prime years on a man who is hiding in a guest room to text you. Harris paused, her fingers hovering over the strings. You didn't even flinch when I told you I was dating a married guy. No lecture? No judgment. Oh, you are 18, Louise said, taking the guitar from her. You are old enough to make your own choices that will cripple you for the rest of your life. My job is just to show you how to play the blues while you do it. Here, give it to me. I will show you the chords that actually sound like a heartbreak. Louise struck a somber, deep chord that vibrated through the small living room. Harris watched her, mesmerized by the simple power of the sound. Ugh, Harris groaned, but her eyes were bright. Okay, teach me the sad ones. Oh, is there a cover charge? Dan's voice rumbled from the doorway as he walked in, looking dusty and tired. Because I really just came in to use the bathroom. But this looks like a very exclusive club. We are just, working on a blues progression, Louise said, smiling at him. I will be with you in a second. We are almost at the part where the dog dies and the truck breaks down. Oh, speaking of bad news, Dan said, his face falling as he checked his phone. Chuck called, and he cannot make that poker game tomorrow night. Something about a cough. Damn it, Dan muttered to himself, tossing his keys on the table. I am sick of this here COVID. I got nowhere to go. My friends do not play poker anymore, and I cannot take their dough. I am losing my edge and my bankroll. Louise looked at him with genuine concern. Want to talk about it? You look like you just lost your best friend and your favorite hammer. Supposed to play poker tomorrow night, Dan explained, sinking into his recliner. You know, first time since all this happened. I was actually looking forward to it. But everybody canceled. They have all got underlying conditions, and they are free to die, but they are not free to play five-card stud. It is a lonely world, Louise. Well, if you are missing poker that bad, Louise suggested, walking over to him. We have enough people in the house to put a game together. We have cards, we have chips, and we certainly have plenty of attitude. Dan's eyes narrowed slightly, a spark of hope competing with his natural skepticism. When you say people in the house, does that mean you are planning on staying here tonight? Or are you just passing through on your way back to your fortress of solitude? Yes, Dan, Louise replied with a playful roll of her eyes. I will be here. And I told you, I will give you plenty of notice before I go home. I was just asking about the game. Just asking, Dan repeated, a bit of the tension leaving his massive shoulders. So what about the game? I do not know. Half the fun of poker is trash talking each other. If I tell you you do not have any balls, it is just true. It is a biological fact. You could say, what line were you in when they were passing out the ovaries? Louise suggested with a sharp grin. I can give as good as I get, Connor. Dan chuckled, the sound deep and resonant. All right, if I could make fun of lady parts without getting a drink thrown in my face, I guess that would be okay. I do not know all the names, though. Oh, what is that thing that looks like antlers? Fallopian tubes, Louise answered without hesitating, her eyes dancing with mischief. And if you bet against me, you will learn exactly what they are for. The kitchen was a mess of baby gear and grocery bags. Becky walked in, looking like she had just run a marathon, carrying a heavy bag. Hey, Beck, Darlene said, looking up from her laptop. I picked you up some of those teething biscuits Barbara Rose likes. They were on sale. Oh, thank God. Becky sighed, leaning against the counter. She has got 2 teeth now, so she is chomping on everything. The other day, she almost took off a nipple. I guess that is why God gave us 2 backup parts for a hungry baby. Well, how are things at the lunchbox? Darlene asked, her voice softening. Is business picking up at all? Or are you still just feeding the neighborhood squirrels? I have been doing a lot of deliveries, Becky said, her voice weary. People are too scared to come in and sit down. Since I have been working for Instacart, I have been picking up stuff for a few other restaurants. You know, they do not want to buy in bulk because they are waiting for their customers to be able to taste and smell again. Yeah, I get it, Darlene said, closing her laptop with a sigh. My place is just barely hanging on. It is like the whole town is holding its breath. Well, you know the Lamford Lotus? They are in real trouble. Oh, really? Becky asked. So that is the last Thai restaurant in town. Uh-huh, Darlene nodded. And if they go out, there is no place left for the white people to get their pad Thai. The menu is like a jungle to them. They are afraid if they get too far in, they will never find their way back from pad CEW. They need their noodles. Becky, was your soul-sucking job as sucky as mine today? Becky asked, trying to lighten the mood. Anyone brutalize you for picking unripe bananas? Any grocery store Karens? Hey, Darlene defended, pointing a finger. I am not one of those lazy shoppers who just grabs a bunch, okay? I am a professional. I go banana by banana, and then I red tape them at the top. I am the Da Vinci of produce. You used to be so interesting, Becky joked, poking her sister in the arm. You used to have opinions about art and politics. Now you have opinions about tape and fruit. Yeah, Darlene sighed, a shadow crossing her face. I was just faking it until I could get my hands on all of this glamorous plastics factory work. I am living the dream, one safety mask at a time. You know, if you just try to get to know the people on the line, it might not be such a miserable job, Becky said, her tone becoming earnest. They have stories, Darlene. They have lives. Yeah, Darlene countered, her voice rising. Becky said the same thing, and I tried it when I was punching out today. There was a woman hovering nearby, so I thought, okay, be a human. I said nice top. Then she told me where she got it, how it was mismarked, and then how she made the poor cashier honor the mismarked tag for 40 minutes. And I started to feel like that guy on the news that hacked his own arm off just to get away from that boulder. I am not built for small talk. Come on, Becky encouraged, though she was stifling a laugh. You just have to make the best of it. And how painful is it to just be friendly for 5 minutes? Boy, you do not know me at all, Darlene whispered, staring at a stack of unpaid bills on the table. Friendly is a luxury I cannot afford right now. A few days later, Dan and Jackie were standing by the window, looking out at the driveway through the blinds. The sound of heavy machinery echoed through the street. When are they going to be done paving so we can use the parking lot again? Jackie asked, her arms crossed. Little Miss NPR has no place to eat her lunch without getting asphalt in her kale. Darlene walked in, holding a piece of paper and shaking with silent laughter. Hahaha. Oh my God, look at that. It was taped to my locker. Dan took the paper, his eyes widening. It was a cruel but undeniably skilled caricature of Darlene dressed as Marie Antoinette, standing over a pile of cake with a look of extreme disdain. It is perfect, Dan laughed, his shoulders shaking. I know. It looks just like her, right? The eyes are exactly that level of disappointed. Oh, totally, Jackie agreed, howling with laughter. The artist captured your inner queen perfectly. Let them eat plastic. Louise walked into the room, and the laughter subsided slightly, replaced by a comfortable, domestic quiet. It is kind of nice that Louise has been riding out this pandemic with you, Dan, Jackie said, nudging her brother. Well, it has been amazing, Dan admitted, looking at Louise with a warmth that was rare for him. But she is already making noises about wanting to go back to her place. I thought for sure she would want to stay here in this palace of luxury. Has anybody that has lived here ever wanted to stay? Jackie asked, her voice turning cynical. They all come back eventually, but they have to be impoverished with absolutely no options left. We are the last resort, Louise. The final safety net. Dan sat at the kitchen table, which was now covered with a green felt cloth. It is about time for the main event. I will see your 50 cents and raise you $1. I am feeling lucky. Becky leaned over the table, her eyes intense and predatory. Going down, old man. I have been playing poker since I was in diapers. Look me in the eyes, Becky, Dan said, trying to maintain a poker face that had survived decades of bill collectors. Why? So you can read my mind and steal my secrets. No, so you can see the hurt when you take the last couple dollars your frail, hobbling father needs for heart medicine. Think of my arteries, Becky. Becky didn't flinch. Get ready to have a heart attack, Pops. I will call the ambulance, but I am keeping the pot. Business is business. Damn, you are cold, Dan whispered, shaking his head. I raised a monster. Harris looked at her cards, her face a blank mask of teenage indifference. I still think you are lying, Grandpa. Raise it $1. The youth are taking over. So it is to me, DJ said, tapping his cards on the table. Look me in the eyes, DJ, Dan commanded, turning his gaze on his son. Are you going to rob your own father in front of his girlfriend? I do not want to kill Dad, DJ sighed, tossing his cards into the center. I am out. My conscience is worth more than $1. Harris stood up suddenly, holding a small basket filled with colorful fabric. Would anyone like a stylish face mask? Hand-sewn and locally sourced. Only $3. Hey, Dan said, inspecting one with a squint. Did you make this one out of my vintage Led Zeppelin t-shirt? The one from the '77 tour. It is a very soft, breathable fabric, Harris replied calmly, her voice as smooth as glass. I would have used your underwear, but they had holes in them and nobody wants to breathe through your failures. $3, Dan. Yeah, I think I will take one, DJ said, reaching for his wallet and handing her the money. Better safe than sorry. You know, Louise, Dan said, looking at her across the table. If you stay in our bubble permanently, you won't even need a mask. You can breathe the free air of the Connor house. You know, DJ, Louise said, leaning back and ignoring Dan's hint. I am happy to have been quarantining with you guys. It has been a lifesaver. But I am an independent person, and I like to be somewhere where the dead skin on the loofah and those weird hairs on the soap are mine and mine alone. It is about ownership. Jackie walked in, looking at her watch and scowling. You are an hour late. Deal or no deal? We have a game to run. Yeah, Becky said, sliding into a seat. I was busy making you all something that I want to test out at the lunchbox. A new potential revenue stream. What is it? More biscuits, Darlene asked. Pad Thai, Becky announced, setting a steaming, aromatic bowl on the table. Thinking about doing a special. 2 for $4. It is the ultimate comfort food. People can get perfectly good Thai food from the Lanford Lotus, Darlene pointed out, her practical side taking over. Why would we serve it? We are a sandwich shop. Don't need a reason, Dan interjected, grabbing a fork. Last time I checked, this is America, the great melting pot. If we want to serve noodles in a loose meat joint, that is our right. Back to the game. Raise it $1. All right, Harris said, pushing a pile of chips in. I will see you that $1 and raise it $15. Let us see who is actually a grown-up. Dan whistled, the sound low and impressed. Whoa, you can tell the players without kids just by the raises. They have no fear of the future. I am out. I have a mortgage. Yeah, DJ agreed, folding his hand. I think I'd better fold. I have a kid and a conscience. Harris looked at Louise, her gaze challenging. What line were you in when they were passing out the ovaries? I thought you were the badass in the family. The rock and roller. Louise squinted at her cards, then at the teenager. Might be bluffing. She is young. She is arrogant. She paused for a long heartbeat. Okay, I will see you. Let us see the damage. Harris flipped her cards over with a triumphant, wicked grin. Full boat. Kings over 2s. Hand over the 20, Louise. Louise stared at the cards, then at her empty chip pile. The silence in the room was deafening. That was kind of psycho, she muttered, her voice tight. Can I have my 20 back? It was a friendly game. No way, Harris said, raking in the pot with both hands. You want to be treated like a grown-up, you have to take it in the shorts like a grown-up. This is the real world. Are you kidding me? Louise asked, her voice rising in genuine anger. I worked hard for that money. I do not have a safety net like you do. We all work hard for the money, Becky sang under her breath, a nervous habit. Donna Summer was right. Next time you will be more careful, Harris said coolly, counting her winnings. So what? You are teaching me a lesson now, Louise asked, her eyes snapping with fire. I do not need that from you. You are not even family. You are just a kid with my money. The room went completely silent. Louise stood up, grabbed her jacket, and walked out without looking back. If she wants to leave, the sooner the better, Harris muttered, though her voice lacked conviction. Dan stared at his granddaughter, his face a mask of shock and disappointment. Oh wow, that was fantastic. Truly a masterpiece of bridge burning. Now we should go down to the 7-Eleven and you can hit that penny tray they have for the children's hospital. You clearly need the cash. Look, I was not trying to be mean, Harris said, feeling the collective weight of the room's judgment. I was just playing the game. She started it. I am going to go talk to her, Dan said, standing up with a groan. That will only make it worse, Jackie warned, holding up a hand. She is in a state. It will blow over on its own if you give it space. Well, we were getting along so great, Dan sighed, looking at the door. This is your first real fight with a teenager, Darlene noted, her voice surprisingly gentle. It is kind of like stepping on a cobra and then trying to give it a hug to say you are sorry. It doesn't work that way. You just get bitten again. I guess, Dan said, sitting back down. What do you think, Jackie? I think if we are taking the kids' money, let us get Mary back in here, Jackie said, trying to redirect the energy. She has got $11 in that fake dog food can in her closet. I was a little short last week and I borrowed some. I replaced it mostly. Later that evening, after the tension had settled into a low-level ache, Dan found Louise sitting on the back porch, staring at the dark silhouettes of the neighborhood trees. You have been out here a long time, he said, stepping out quietly. You want a sweater or something? The Illinois damp is no joke. No thanks, Louise replied, her voice distant. I am fine. I just needed some air that didn't smell like desperation and poker. Did you have a crappy day too? Dan asked, sitting beside her on the wooden steps. Was not my best, Louise admitted, leaning her head against the railing. Why? What happened to you? Did the assembly line eat your soul today? Online school is so frustrating. Harris's voice drifted out from the open kitchen window, loud and clear. There are glitches, and kids' computers are not working, and their parents are trying to fix them while they are at work. One mom had a total breakdown today. She was drunk on Zoom, screaming out that algebra is useless and life is a lie. Darlene walked onto the porch, having heard the exchange. See? When it comes to your education, aren't you glad I am totally checked out? I am the perfect parent because I am never there. Harris followed her, leaning against the doorframe. What happened to you, Mom? Someone at work put up a cartoon of me dressed as Marie Antoinette because I did not eat a piece of birthday cake, Darlene said, her voice flat. They think I am acting like I am above them, which is impossible because I barely even speak to them. I am a ghost on that line. What do you think? I come off as a snob? Darlene asked the group, her eyes searching for a real answer.